Imagine walking past your mother in the street and not recognizing her. Now imagine doing it again, and again, and again, every day, your entire life. Looking at the face of someone you've known since before you could speak. Someone who fed you, bathed you, read you bedtime stories, and your brain simply says, "Sorry, don't know who this is." This isn't a plot twist from some mind-bending thriller. This is reality for millions of people around the world. It's called prosopagnosia. And today, we're going to break down exactly what it is, why it happens, how it feels, and what we can do about it. Welcome to What Is. Let's get into it. Definition: prosopagnosia. It sounds like something out of a medical drama, doesn't it? And in some ways, it kind of is. The word itself comes from the Greek prosopon, meaning face, and agnosia, meaning not knowing. Face blindness, pure and simple. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is the part that surprises most people. Prosopagnosia isn't about your eyes not working. It's not about poor vision or memory problems in the traditional sense. It's specifically about the brain's inability to process and recognize faces. Think about how incredible this is. Your eyes might be perfect. You might have a PhD in art history and remember the exact year Van Gogh painted Starry Night. But when you look at a face, your own brother's face, your best friend's face, the face you've seen thousands of times, your brain essentially throws up its hands and says, "I got nothing." Now here's something that blows people's minds. There are two main types of this condition. The first is called developmental prosopagnosia. This is when someone is born with it. Their face recognition system just never developed properly. They've literally never experienced recognizing faces the way most people do. For them, this isn't a loss. It's simply how they've always lived. The second type is acquired prosopagnosia. This happens after brain damage, usually to a specific area in the fusiform gyrus, which scientists sometimes call the fusiform face area, or FFA. This little region, tucked away in the bottom of your brain, is basically your face recognition hardware. When it gets damaged through a stroke, a traumatic brain injury, or even certain degenerative diseases, the software stops working properly. And here's the wild part. You can have prosopagnosia and not even know it. Because if you've never been able to recognize faces, you have no reference point for what's normal. You just think everyone else is somehow magically doing something you can't figure out. It's like being born without a sense of smell and realizing only later that other people can detect when the milk is off. How it presents. The experience. Let's paint a picture. You're at a party, or let's say a work conference, which is somehow even more terrifying. People keep coming up to you. They smile. They say your name. They act like your long-lost best friends, and you have absolutely no idea who they are. Is this the guy from accounting? The guy who sat next to you at that one meeting 3 years ago? Is this someone you went to college with? Is this your dentist? Wait, no, your dentist is a woman. Or is that wrong? Did you switch dentists? Why are they looking at you like you should know them? Why are they saying, "We should catch up sometime," when you have no clue what you're catching up from? This is the lived experience of prosopagnosia. And it's not just strangers or acquaintances. Research shows that many people with prosopagnosia struggle to recognize family members, even their own children. A mother might pick her child up from school and not recognize them until the child waves or speaks. A father might walk right past his own daughter in a mall, because to his brain, she's just another kid. Now here's where it gets really tricky. Because faces aren't the only thing we use to recognize people. We use voices, we use gait, how someone walks, we use clothing, hairstyles, body shape. And people with prosopagnosia often become incredibly good at using these other cues as compensation. So you might recognize your boss not by his face, but by his distinctive walk, the slight limp from his football injury. You might recognize your sister-in-law by her bright red handbag she never goes anywhere without. You might know your neighbor because she always wears that purple cardigan and talks extremely loudly on her phone every morning at 8 a.m. But here's the problem. These cues change. People get new haircuts, they lose weight, they change their style, they wear different clothes on different days, and suddenly, all your compensation strategies are useless. The social consequences can be profound. Imagine avoiding social situations entirely because you're terrified of not recognizing someone. Imagine lying to your friends. "Oh, I'm so sorry, my phone was on silent. I didn't see you wave." When the truth is, you had no idea who that person was, even when they were standing 3 feet away. Imagine the anxiety of every new interaction, every casual encounter, every "Hey, how have you been?" And it's not just other people's faces. Many people with prosopagnosia also struggle with their own face. They can't recognize themselves in photos. They catch their reflection in a mirror and don't immediately know that's them. Some people describe the experience of looking at old photographs of themselves and feeling nothing, like they're looking at a stranger, because in many ways they are. Research from Harvard University, led by Dr. Howard Nussbaum, suggests that up to 1 in 50 people may have some form of prosopagnosia. That's roughly 2% of the population. To put that in perspective, that's more people than have Parkinson's disease, more than have schizophrenia, yet almost no one has heard of it. If this is resonating with you, or if you know someone who might struggle with this, you're not alone. Prosopagnosia is more common than people think, and the good news is, there's help. Keep watching, and we'll get into coping strategies and what the future holds. But first, let's talk about something fascinating: how prosopagnosia links to other conditions. Links to other conditions. Here's where things get really interesting from a scientific standpoint. Prosopagnosia doesn't exist in a vacuum. It often shows up alongside other conditions, and understanding these connections helps us understand the broader picture of how our brains work. The most well-known connection is with autism spectrum disorder. Now, researchers aren't saying everyone with prosopagnosia is autistic, or that all autistic people have prosopagnosia. But numerous studies have found significantly higher rates of prosopagnosia in autistic populations. Some research suggests up to 30 to 40% of autistic individuals may have some degree of face recognition difficulties. The theory is that both conditions involve differences in how the brain processes social information. Faces are fundamentally social objects. We read emotions from them. We identify people from them. We navigate entire social ecosystems using them. And if your brain is wired somewhat differently for social processing, face recognition can be one of the casualties. But here's the plot twist. Prosopagnosia is also strongly linked to something called theory of mind deficits. Theory of mind is our ability to understand that other people have their own thoughts, beliefs, and perspectives that might differ from ours. It's what allows us to lie, to trick people, to understand jokes, to predict what someone will do next. Research has found that people with prosopagnosia sometimes struggle with theory of mind tasks. Not always, but enough to suggest these brain systems are connected. The fusiform face area, that little region dedicated to recognizing faces, seems to work closely with other social cognition networks in the brain. When one goes down, sometimes others follow. There's also emerging research connecting prosopagnosia to memory conditions. Some studies have found that people with prosopagnosia perform differently on certain memory tasks. Not necessarily worse, but differently. The memory systems for faces and the memory systems for other types of information might share some cognitive real estate. Perhaps most surprisingly, prosopagnosia has been linked to spatial navigation difficulties. The same area of the brain involved in face recognition, the fusiform gyrus, is also involved in recognizing places and objects. Some people with prosopagnosia also report getting lost more easily, struggling to remember routes, or having difficulty recognizing familiar locations. And here's a fascinating connection that researchers are still unpacking. Some studies suggest a link between prosopagnosia and anxiety and depression. Now, this could be chicken and egg. Is prosopagnosia causing social anxiety because of all the embarrassing recognition failures? Or is there something more fundamental linking these conditions? The research is still evolving. One thing is clear: prosopagnosia isn't just about not recognizing faces. It's a window into how our brains handle social information, object recognition, and spatial processing. And studying it helps us understand the incredible complexity of the 3-pound universe between our ears. And from a personal perspective, I have this too. I also have aphantasia, which is the lack of a mind's eye. This means I have no visual memory and therefore have no visual record to recall faces. If you would like to know more about aphantasia, drop a comment below and we can do a video on that one. Coping mechanisms. Now for the practical stuff. If prosopagnosia is a fact of life, how do people deal with it? The first line of defense is usually compensation strategies, and people with prosopagnosia become incredibly creative. Remember those alternative cues we talked about? Voices, gaits, clothing, hairstyles? Many people deliberately focus on these and turn them into conscious strategies. Some people develop what researchers call truly bizarre compensation strategies. One study documented a person who recognized his wife by the sound of her earrings jingling. Another person recognized his daughter by the specific way she carried her backpack on her left shoulder. Someone else recognized his best friend only when the friend wore his lucky blue jacket. Technology has become a game changer. Social media and smartphones have given people with prosopagnosia incredible tools. Facebook recognizes faces in photos and suggests tags. Your phone can put names to faces in your camera roll. You can scroll through someone's Instagram before seeing them in person and study their photos like a detective preparing for a stakeout. Some people use name tags or introduce themselves first in every interaction. Hi, I'm so sorry. I have a condition that makes it hard for me to recognize faces. Could you remind me who you are? This takes bravery and vulnerability, but it beats the alternative of pretending and getting caught. There are also specific therapies being developed. Some researchers are working on face training programs, essentially teaching people with prosopagnosia to use different features for recognition. Instead of trying to recognize the whole face, which seems to be the broken system, these programs teach people to focus on specific features: the nose, the ears, the eyebrows, and how those features are configured. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, can help with the anxiety and social avoidance that often accompanies prosopagnosia. Learning to manage the emotional fallout, the embarrassment, the shame, the fear of social situations can be just as important as trying to improve face recognition itself. Support groups, both online and in person, have been transformative for many people with prosopagnosia. There's something powerful about realizing you're not alone, that there are other people who understand exactly what you're going through. The phrase, "I thought I was the only one," comes up constantly in prosopagnosia communities. And perhaps most importantly, education and awareness help. When family members, friends, and co-workers understand prosopagnosia, they can help. They can introduce themselves. They can not take it personally when you don't recognize them. They can be patient. Understanding transforms potential humiliation into manageable social navigation. Future. So what does the future hold for understanding and treating prosopagnosia? The research is accelerating. Brain imaging technologies like fMRI have allowed scientists to study the fusiform face area in unprecedented detail. We're learning not just what is broken in prosopagnosia, but exactly where it's broken and potentially how to fix it. One exciting avenue is targeted cognitive training. If the face recognition system can be retrained to use different pathways, different features, different strategies, it's possible that some aspects of prosopagnosia could be improved. Research is ongoing, and while we're not talking about a cure yet, we're talking about meaningful improvements. Genetic research is revealing potential hereditary components of prosopagnosia. Understanding the genes involved could lead to earlier identification and intervention. If parents know their child has a genetic predisposition to prosopagnosia, they can develop support strategies from an early age. Virtual reality and AI are opening new possibilities. AI systems can now identify faces with superhuman accuracy. Could those systems be integrated into glasses or contacts to help people with prosopagnosia? The technology isn't there yet, but the concept is being explored. Awareness is growing. What was once a virtually unknown condition is slowly entering public consciousness. More people are getting diagnosed, more resources are becoming available, and more importantly, the stigma is beginning to fade. In the future, we might see prosopagnosia screening become standard in certain contexts. Children starting school might be assessed for face recognition difficulties. Workplace accommodations might become more common, and the phrase "I have prosopagnosia" might become as understood as "I need glasses." If you think you might have prosopagnosia, or if this video helped you understand someone who does, don't suffer in silence. Talk to your doctor. Reach out to prosopagnosia organizations and support groups. There are resources available, and you don't have to navigate this alone. And if you found this video helpful, hit that like button. Subscribe to What Is if you haven't already. Because learning about the world and the incredible quirks of human brains is what we're all about. Now before we go, here's that bonus fact I promised. One that didn't make it into the rest of the script. Bonus fact. Here's something wild. Some researchers believe that famous physicist Richard Feynman may have had prosopagnosia. In his autobiography, Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, he describes consistently failing to recognize people he'd met before, including confusing famous colleagues with other people. While he was never formally diagnosed, the term wasn't widely used during his lifetime. His experiences described in the book match many of the classic presentations of prosopagnosia. So if you ever felt like you couldn't recognize your colleagues or kept embarrassing yourself at parties, maybe you're an incredibly distinguished company. One of the greatest minds of the 20th century might have been right there with you. Thanks for watching. See you next time on What Is.